It didn't work.
Right, okay. Thank you. That's going to confuse me. So, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this meeting of the council. Before we start the usual proceedings, I'm sure you will have been saddened to learn the death of former councillor Jenny Hothersall. We will now observe a 1-minute silence. Thank you. Would any members like to say a few words on the sad passing of Councillor Jenny Hothersall, as was? Okay, first we have Councillor David Howarth.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I will defer to the Leader of the Conservatives. I think that's probably more.
Thank you. So, Councillor Margaret Smith.
I think Councillor Walton would like to speak first.
Yeah, I just take it in the order I see it, but thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, unfortunately, it was very sad news about Jenny, and Jenny and Jim were members of this council for many, many years and worked very hard. I didn't personally know Jenny or Jim very well, so I've asked Councillor Margaret Smith to speak on our behalf, but we send all our thoughts, prayers and wishes to all their family and friends at this very sad time.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. We will move on then. Thank you. Yeah. Right. So, moving on. We do have Councillor Margaret Smith, followed by Councillor David Howarth, followed by Councillor Paul Foster. I have said it, therefore it is happening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I first met Jenny in 2007 when she agreed to stand for council after her husband Jim had already agreed to stand in Middleford. She was successful and served from 2007 to 2015. Although Jenny was a bit reluctant to stand at first, once she was elected, she was a very committed and conscientious councillor. She served on the licensing committee, the Penwitham South Area Committee. She was a member of the Members Development Committee and was the council's representative on Progress Housing. She also served on Penwitham Town Council. Jenny was a quiet lady, but very determined. Give her a task and she would work at it until she resolved it. Married to Jim, her childhood sweetheart, they had 3 daughters. She also worked as a PA at a high level at British Aerospace. She was also a very efficient and effective secretary to our Conservative group. I don't think I ever heard her say a crossword, or did she ever get flustered. She was a genuinely kind and gentle person, and she will be missed by many of her friends, and especially by her family. We send our sincere condolences to them. May Jenny rest in peace. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Councillor David Howarth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I actually served with Jenny Hothersall on both Pemberton Town Council and eventually on this council as well. And my recollection of her was as the Pemberton, as it became, neighbourhood forum chair at a time when I thought there's probably far too much emphasis on jam making and flower arranging than there was on adding social fabric to the area. But that's perhaps the difference we just had. So likewise, it is a sad passing. I do recall in recent times that she was actually pitching in on Facebook as well on various Penwitham issues. So she was still quite active and alert as to what was going on. So I can only echo the sentiments that have been expressed, that we do send our condolences to both her family and friends.
Thank you, Councillor Howarth. Councillor Paul Foster.
Yeah, thanks, man. I'd like to totally associate myself with everything that's been said by Margaret and David. Jenny and Jim, I think, were both elected in the same year as me in 2007. And the best way I could describe Jenny, she was just a lovely lady, and she really was. And I had an awful lot of time for her, and I enjoyed her company. I know she desperately struggled after Jim's death as well. I remember seeing her a few months later. And may she rest in peace. And on behalf of all the members of the Labour group, we send our deepest condolences to all the family and our colleagues in the Conservative group. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Foster. We have some good news to celebrate this evening. We recently attended the Lancashire Tourism Awards at King George's Hall in Blackburn, where we were nominated for the Small Event of the Year Award for Music in the Park. The awards are the biggest and only county-wide celebration of tourism excellence in Lancashire, and we beat off some tough competition on the night to bring the award home for this brilliant event. I'd like to congratulate everyone involved in hosting the flagship event for South Ribble, in particular the events team. I believe we have Peter O'Neill, the events team leader, present this evening. We look forward to this year's Music in the Park, which is taking place on Sunday, the 26th of May at Worden Park, and it looks to be set even bigger and better than ever. Okay. Councillor Paul Foster, would you like to say just a few words?
Of course I would, Mayor. Thank you. This is really, really good news, and I can't thank Peter and the team enough. This is down to them and the way they managed this event for us. And don't underplay this. This is a huge event that takes many months in the planning, and to bring some of the international stars that we do to Leyland is wonderful, and it's great that it's been recognised regionally as one of the best. And when I tell you that Lytham wasn't shortlisted, but South Ribble's Party in the Park was, Music in the Park, there you go. So this isn't about anything other than a recognition of the great work of Peter and the team, and please do come along this year because it's bigger and better. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, I'll start with some domestic arrangements for the meeting. Due to the regulations surrounding voting, only those members physically present are able to vote. Mobile devices, please ensure that all electronic equipment is either on silent mode or switched off. There are no planned fire alarms, so if it does sound, please leave via the emergency exits. The meeting is being live streamed during open session for members of the public to watch. If you would like to speak, please press your microphones to let me know. When I invite you to speak, your microphone will turn red. Please do not obstruct your mouth to ensure that anyone lip reading can do so. If anyone is having an issue, please let Democratic Services know. Some points of procedure for members. Members asking a question have a maximum of 3 minutes, and may ask one subsequent question directly related to the original question for no more than 2 minutes. When speaking on an item, all members must address the issue under debate. No speech may exceed 5 minutes without the consent of the Mayor, and I am aware we are budget setting this evening, so there will be some leniency there. A member who has spoken once on a motion may not speak again while it is being debated, except in specific circumstances. Finally, can I also remind all members that comments need to be made through myself, and we do not pass comments across table. If you wish to speak, please indicate using your microphone button. Individual members of the public will be restricted to speaking for a total of 5 minutes during the whole meeting. Yeah. Right. Do we have any apologies for absence? Take that as no.
Yes, we have. Sorry.
Sorry.
We have apologies from Councillor Gleeson, Councillor Rainsbury, Councillor King. We also have apologies from Councillor Flannery and Councillor Peat, although they are joining us on Teams.
Thank you very much. Declarations of interest. Members are reminded of their responsibility to declare any pecuniary interest in respect of matters contained in the agenda. Are there any declarations of interest? We have Councillor Damien Bretherton.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'd just like to declare an interest regarding agenda item 12. I'm a small landlord in South Ribble with one long-standing tenant of 28 years. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Paul Foster.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Agenda item 11 makes reference and is relevant to war pensions. Because of my military service, I am in receipt of a war pension, although it is of no direct relevance to the decision that Council's making tonight. However, in the interest of transparency and thoroughness, I'm going to declare that as a pecuniary interest, Mayor, and not take part in that debate. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Foster. Okay, item 3, minutes of the last meeting, which are on pages 5 to 12. This is for the minutes of the meeting held on Wednesday, 31st of January, and it's for decision. Can I please ask the Leader of the Council, Councillor Paul Foster, to propose the minutes be approved?
Proposed, Mayor. Thank you.
Is this seconded?
Seconded. It's seconded, and I'd like to make a point of clarity as well.
Yeah, okay, I'll come on to that now. Yeah, are there any questions on points of accuracy? Councillor Aniela Belinsky.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I feel it's appropriate to update members on an important clarification outlined within minute 87, and it's the third paragraph. The Leader of the Opposition publicly stated that she'd raised issues concerning the health and safety of residents in respect to the collection of waste via email, and council officers had failed to respond. Having followed it up with the officers, my understanding is that the email raising concerns had actually been sent from another parish councillor, and officers had in fact responded on the same working day. I hope this clarifies this extremely important issue, and perhaps I'd like to invite Councillor Walton to take this opportunity to set the record straight and apologise to the Council for the inaccurate representation of the diligent work of the officers. Thank you, Mayor.
We now have Councillor Karen Walton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I apologise if I got it wrong. I do apologise. I thought, from my recollection, I had emailed the officers concerning the issue which had been raised at the parish council, so I apologise if I misled the council. But I also have some clarification on item 87 from a question that I asked about again, the bin collection, and Councillor Willinski-Gelder stated that the officers would look into it, and that Farrington Parish Council had recently closed a car park in the area, which may have exaggerating the issue. The car park in question isn't a car park. It's designated as hard standing and cannot be classified as a car park in the area. And it has been closed for car parking, for general car parking, because of health and safety issues. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Are there any more questions? No. Okay, then we move to the vote. For, against, or abstain. Please press your buttons now. Okay, that's clearly carried. Yeah. Right, okay, I do apologise for that. Councillor Tomlinson, your light is on here.
Don't know why.
Phew. Do we need a vote?
You can accept that. It's
okay. Right, we will just accept that then, and it is clearly carried. Thank you. Mayor's announcements, number 4. Thank you to all colleagues who attended the concert of Merry Hell, a fundraiser for my charities. We had a wonderful evening. It is with pleasure that I let you know that the framed portrait of His Majesty the King to celebrate the new reign is now in situ in the Shield Room if you want to go and have a look. There's still plenty of time to get tickets for my ABBA-themed murder mystery night at Worden Hall on the 8th of March. Please see Claire Barnes, my secretary, for tickets by the 1st of March. It looks to be a fun evening with a 2-course meal, bar, raffle, raising money, money, money. Must be funny for my charities. Since the last council meeting, I have attended various engagements right across the borough. Some highlights included visits to various establishments as part of the Dementia Alliance, visits to various businesses to celebrate their trading birthdays, and the Runshaw College Apprenticeship Evening. Thank you. Okay, item 5, urgent decisions, 13 to 16. This item is for noting. Can I please ask the leader of the council, Councillor Paul Foster, to present this report?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. As usual, we report to Council any urgent decisions that have been made since the previous meeting. There is one for members to note, and it was using the general exception for the bikeability tender, Mayor, and the Cabinet member was asked to take this decision due to the need to submit the tender within a time frame outside of the Council's control. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Is this report seconded?
Seconded.
Are there any questions from members of the council? No. Then we note the report. Okay, item 6. Again, this item is for noting. Can I please, and it's the Cabinet, can I please ask the leader of the council, Councillor Paul Foster, to present the report of the Cabinet meeting held on the 21st of February.
Thanks, Mayor. This is when I'm enjoying using my iPad because this is a supplementary report that I've just managed to find. So this is a report of the Cabinet meeting held on the 21st of February 2024. At that meeting, Mayor, the Deputy Leader proposed the refurbishment and award of the contract at the long-term play area, which we're really pleased to see. The revenue budget monitoring report and the capital and balance sheet monitoring report was also presented to Cabinet by Councillor Matthew Tomlinson. The Cabinet then had two really interesting and positive updates, Mayor, on the Leyland Town deal and the Jubilee Gardens progress project next door. If it hasn't been already, it's my intention to share these updates with all councillors. Clearly, all councillors could have attended the Cabinet meeting and seen the work that's going on at the Town Deal and Jubilee Gardens. With that, Mayor, I'm happy to take any questions anyone may have. Thank you.
Okay. First of all, is this report seconded?
Seconded.
Thank you. Have we any questions from members of the council? No, we're duly noting that report then. Number 7, Governance Committee, pages 17 to 20. This item is for noting. Can I please ask the Chair of the Governance Committee, Councillor Colin Sharples, to present the report of the committee held on the 6th of February?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Meeting held on the February the 6th. We noted a report about the internal audit progress. We also listened to the external auditors who told us about their final report and their final audit findings, which we noted. The statement of accounts was approved, and we also looked at a risk management strategy, which we approved. But before I ask council to note that, I just want to dwell momentarily on the statement of accounts. You know, this is a budget council. They were signed off shortly after that last meeting. And I can tell you, it's interesting because we are one of only 3 authorities in Lancashire that actually got our accounts signed off on time out of 15 authorities. And at least one authority still hasn't signed theirs off from 2018. And to me, that is a testament to just how well we manage this council. And I think I need to say well done to the Statutory 151 Officer Louise Pattinson and her team for the fantastic amount of work and the effort that goes into doing this. The Cabinet, particularly Councillor Tomlinson, who will be waxing lyrical on all things financial shortly, and the Government Committee as well for their oversight. And I think we can all give ourselves a huge pat on the back for doing really well. And with that, I ask Councillor to note the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sharples. Is this report seconded? Thank you. Please remember to use your button when speaking. And I will certainly try to do the same. Are there any questions from members of the council? No. Oh, Councillor Phil Smith.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Unfortunately, Councillor Sharples, it was one of the meetings that I was unable to attend. The very few. I think I've attended every one for about God knows how many years. I congratulate the accounts team if that's what they managed to do. I was unfortunately not there, but that is good. But and to be one of the few that have completed their accounts on time, which is really, really important. Just for note again, the European Union have never completed their accounts and never had them signed off ever since it started. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know where we're going there, but anyway, that is then noted because I can't see any more requests to speak. So we move on to item 8, which is scrutiny committee. This item is again for noting. Can I please ask the Chair of Corporate Performance and Budget Scrutiny Committee, Councillor Will Adams, to present the report of the committee held on the 20th of Feb 24.
Thank you, Mayor, and I'm glad to say that we didn't scrutinise the European Union at this meeting. It would have been there even longer. Yeah, happy to recommend the recommendations. If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Thank you.
Is this report seconded?
Mr. Mayor.
Thank. Are there any questions from any members of the council? No. In that case, that has been noted. Okay. Questions to leader. of the council. As we are considering the budget this evening, there has been a slight change to the running order of the agenda, and we will hear questions to the leader and the cabinet before we move on to the items of business. Are there any questions from any members of the council? Councillor David Howarth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Could I first of all start off by commending Councillor Foster on his walk from Barrow back to here. I've been to Barrow with Councillor Foster, as it happens, and it's definitely a place you would want to walk out of. However, in recognition of his great efforts, I do have a £20 note here, which I would like to donate to you and the charity that you raised the money for. Well, that's not the question I'm asking. The question I would like to ask is, if you have the figures to hand with regards to the Pickering's Farm advice that we received from barristers, could you advise us as to what the cost of that advice was? And would you be able to make the advice from the barristers available to members of council?
Thanks, Councillor Howarth. Well, I would say I would tend to rather walk to Barrow at times, being my hometown, especially when I go and watch my football team. But I'll say to council, thanks to, there were a few councillors that did support that as well, and I appreciate that. I can confirm I will not be doing that again. I will most certainly not be doing that again. I never realised how long the A6 from Lancaster to Preston was, and I've never been so pleased to see Preston ever before in my life. It was done, and it was done for good causes, and I'm still struggling now, but never mind. In respect to the barrister advice, I don't know the exact figure, David, on the amount it cost us to seek the barrister's review of the Secretary of State's decision, but I will find out what that is and write to you with that information. In respect to legal advice that the council receives, it's my understanding that this is something that we wouldn't normally share with members. However, I will go away and speak to the monitoring officer. If it's something that's deemed appropriate, I will of course share it. If it's something that's not deemed appropriate, then obviously we'll write to and explain why. However, what I will say is if anything is shared from our barrister to members, it is strictly confidential. It's legally privileged information, and that's one of the reasons why I have a concern whether or not it can be shared. But if it can be, of course I will share it.
Subsequent, sorry.
Yeah. As a follow-up question, my understanding is that as members of the council, we have a right to information for us to carry out our role and duty. I fully appreciate that this may be confidential, but we all sign up to confidentiality when we stand for the council. So I would be struggling to understand why that information cannot be made available to at least the other group leaders.
Councillor Foster.
And I understand that point you're making, Councillor Howarth, and you know me well, and if information can be shared, I think it's right and proper, it should be shared. Not all information that comes into this building is shared with me. There are some legally privileged information, particularly around HR and other issues, that I don't get sight of, and nor should I. However, as I've said to council, if it's deemed appropriate with the monitoring officer, I'll speak to him. I will write to you tomorrow, and I can't see off the top of my head any reason why it can't necessarily be shared, because the conclusions are there for all to see, and it's the conclusions that we then based our decision around. But if it can be shared, it absolutely will be.
Thank you. Councillor Margaret Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to ask a question regarding a report that went to governance, but I thought it was appropriate to ask the person who is responsible for the situation rather than the chairman of governance. I hope that I'm being correct in this. It refers to a report from internal audit regarding the driving licences check that has been carried out. The audit itself was took place on the 26th of October. It actually wasn't sent to the governance committee till February, and I'm wondering why there was such a delay in the first place. And the reason I'm asking the leader is that I understand that he is responsible for HR, and therefore this falls under your portfolio. That's what I've been told. Okay, right. Well, the question is that reading the report, at some point in the report, it goes on about the fact that driving licence haven't been regularly checked. And I know that's been addressed, obviously, because between October and February, that must be addressed. And therefore, that has been presumably ongoing. And they're going to put a new policy in place regarding how often these should be checked. But what has been concerning me, and I'll just read you a slight bit from the report, it says, and it regards both councils, it's Chorley as well as South Ribble, both councils may struggle to demonstrate to their insurance providers that they have effectively and proactively procedures in place to comply with the regulations and management of driving regulation risks. I'm wondering if we are now in a position to say categorically that we are able to assure our insurance companies that we are in that position, that we are not putting anybody at risk. Thank you.
Councillor Foster.
Yeah, thanks. And thanks for the question, Councillor Smith. So firstly, I think that this actually is an issue for the licensing committee, if it's driver licenses. Right. So
can we please use our microphone?
Right. So I don't know whether it's my portfolio or not, but I'm the leader of the council, so I'll take responsibility. So I haven't got in front of me the report that you have in front of you, Councillor Mrs. Smith, so it's difficult for me to comment. However, one of the things I will say is one of the decisions that's been made by the council, and it's one of the reasons that our governance is so strong in this authority, is that each and every limited assurance report goes to the governance committee for review. And historically, that's not something that has happened. And that's something that I'm proud that does happen, because there are a number of times throughout the year we get limited assurances. It's internal audit doing its job properly. Specifically, in answer to your question, I'm not going to provide any further answers because I haven't got the detail, Margaret, in front of me. However, I will get the monitoring officer to write to you in the morning with the detailed response. I would have thought that is something that would have been asked and discussed at the governance committee at the time, because clearly if it's an issue that's been picked up, then it's the management's duty to instantly resolve that issue. And within that same report, I'd be surprised if there wasn't a management action plan that actually answers the question that you've just raised. So the monitoring officer will write to you tomorrow with the answer.
Thank you, Councillor Foster. Councillor Matthew Tomlinson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wonder whether the leader would agree with me that the ability to rise as I am in council and ask the leader a question, totally unprompted as I am, is almost unique amongst local government. It's something that I value highly, and I would hope others do too. I wonder whether the leader would also agree with me that the ability to do that comes under some challenge when, frankly, those questions are on a national political issue or a ward-specific issue that, frankly, has nothing to do with the running of this council or is of no interest to 48 other people who are sat here listening. I do hope that this tradition can continue, but it's my belief that relies on members using it wisely.
Councillor Foster.
Thanks for that, Councillor Tomlinson. I thought the questions were done then. One of the things that concerns me with the questions is that I always wish to be, and my cabinet colleagues share this view as well, is actually to be able to answer the question that's proposed and put in front of us, because we're all here to the benefit of our local communities. The problem and issues that we're facing at the moment is the overwhelming majority of questions that were being asked we can't possibly answer. Some of them are very ward specific. And if I'm being honest, Matthew, it would be a much easier solution if the questions were actually submitted in writing outside of the council meeting. And surely that would be a better service to our community, because if there's a genuine issue, it can be resolved as quickly as possible. And I just hope that moving forward, that the questions can be relevant, but also a position where they can be answered. And I'd urge all members, I'll answer any question I'm asked if I can. But if I can't answer that question, then perhaps that's been a wasted opportunity. And if the question, like Alderman Forrest has issued his question that I'm about to answer shortly in writing prior, I can speak to the statutory officers and I can then answer the question appropriately. But it's just something to bear in mind, and I do accept your sentiment you've raised, Matthew. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Are there any more questions from members of the council? No, we now move on to questions from members of the public. Do we have any members of the public wanting to ask a question? No. Councillor? No, ex-councillor. Forrest. Alderman, thank you very much indeed, sir. Actually, maybe we should insert something there for questions from Alderman before.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, it's still a novelty to be addressed as an Alderman. Nonetheless, very pleasing, I must say. Thank you very much. I don't think I've actually had an opportunity to say thank you to the members for bestowing that upon me.
Excuse me, sir, can you stand with the microphone on?
Yes, I have got the microphone.
Okay, thank you.
Red and so on. And my apologies to the leader for putting further strain on your poor feet. I wasn't aware of this march, and I shall make sure I provide you with a contribution to your charity before I leave. I have two questions, and unless you want it any differently, I'll put those two together. The first question is, in July, you indicated that you would shortly be announcing plans to celebrate the 50 years of twinning, and I'll get it right, with Schleswig-Flensburg. When will you be in a position to make that announcement? That's the first question. The second question may be a little difficult for new members to understand, and I perhaps better just put a bit of a gloss on it before I actually ask the question. Towards the beginning of the last council and prior to lockdown, Councillor Bilinski-Gelder and I were concerned about the situation of the Leyland Sports Association. Members will not be aware of it, but at the beginning of the millennium, land became available and was purchased for the purposes of Leyland and its community, which was used, I think, for a bowling green and then for a basketball court. Over the years, the situation on that sports association changed, and Aniela found ourselves in the position where quite an important piece of ground in the centre of Leyland had become owned by, I think as it is now, by a son of a former director and someone who lives in Norfolk. And we were concerned that that wasn't going to be used for the community. And we found that there was nothing that we could do about it the way it was. Aniela and I were still in that position. Now, in the course of retiring from the Leyland Festival Committee, I discovered that the Festival Committee had decided not to become a charity. And that, of course, put them in exactly the same position as Leyland Sports Association. And that caused me some concern. And therefore, I wrote to the leader before Christmas and really suggested at that point that it would be appropriate for Leyland Festival to become a charity so that its objects were clear and so that there was no question of those rights being abused by future directors.
I know I said I was going to be kind tonight, but we do need to get to the question.
I'll come to the question now, Mr. Mayor. I refer to my letter before Christmas where I pointed out the dangers of the lack of charitable status of Leyland Festival Committee and suggested that charitable status should be a precondition to the continued public-private partnership. I see their position is unchanged, and June fast approaches when this council will part with a further £25,000 or more as contribution to the festivities. Is the festival's continued uncharitable status due to obstinacy on their part, or reluctance of the council to impose conditions? If it's the latter, how does the council justify its reluctance to protect public money?
Councillor Foster.
So, welcome, Alderman Titherington and Alderman Forrest. I thought they were going to sit there nice and quietly and enjoy the meeting. So, Derek, I'll start with the latter question first. There's a huge difference between the Leyland Festival Committee and the previous company that you mentioned, because the previous the issue that you mentioned was that had a land asset and completely separate of the council. And I'm aware that there's a trust fund or something being created, and it's completely out of the council's hands, as you're probably aware, Derek. You're a lawyer. You're probably far more aware of this than me. But we are comparing apples with pears here. The Leyland Festival Committee is structured in the way it's structured, and it is nothing whatsoever to do with South Ribble Borough Council. We're one of many organisations that support the Festival Committee. And remember, the main and sole purpose of the Festival Committee is the Leyland Festival, where we get 30 to 40,000 people visiting the borough on the day, and it's an overwhelming success. Whether or not the Festival Committee directors decide to take on charitable status or not is of no relevance to South Ribble Borough Council, because the same checks and safeguarding would be carried out on any grant funding that we awarded a charity than it would be that we awarded the Festival Committee as it's structured currently as a limited company. The monitoring officer, Section 151 officer, always do the due diligence, and there's a strict set of criteria that we must follow toward grant funds to any organisation within the borough. And as you know, Derek, the festival is one of numerous organisations that we do submit grant funding towards. The monitoring officer and I spoke about this again today. There's nothing within our financial regulations nor our constitution that prevents us awarding grant funding to any organisation at all. And every single payment that's made on every single application that's made goes through the same due diligence. So whether we and as you know yourself, there are other charities, there are other non-charities that ask for our financial support, and we provide it where it's appropriate, and we won't provide it where it's not appropriate. We can't demand that the Festival Committee take on charitable status. That is their decision there. However, the monitoring officer and I are continuing to look at this, and we will speak with the Festival Committee, but ultimately it's their decision. Just one final word on this, Mayor, for Council. I'm aware that the team, the officers here within the Council, do have full access and sight of the accounts of the Festival Committee as well on an annual basis. Hope that answers your question, Derek. 50th anniversary, first question. So we should all be proud to note that the South Ribble Borough Council starts its 50th year in a few weeks, which is quite phenomenal. Some councillors have been members much longer than others, Margaret, here. However, it's something that we should celebrate. You know, we're sat here now. There's so many, you only need to walk down the corridor there. There's so many great 50 past mayors, freemen of the boroughs, aldermen now, and we've achieved great things together as a community, and how the community has changed within those 50 years is quite phenomenal. So there are plans afoot. They're almost ready, Derek, to share where we will celebrate with our community our 50th birthday, and that will include our friends over in Germany. Darren Cranshaw and the team are pulling this programme together. I'm hoping that's going to be presented to Cabinet. If not at the next Cabinet meeting, it'll be very shortly thereafter. And all members and all from all parties, past members too, and as many members of our community that want to join in will be joining those celebrations with us. But it's something we should all celebrate and support because it's something I'm sure we're very, very proud of. Hope that answers your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Foster. Are there any more questions from members of the public? No hands I can see, so we will now move on. So we go on to item 10, questions to Cabinet members. I'll take these in order. Questions for the Deputy Leader and Cabinet Member for Neighbourhoods and Waste, Councillor Aniela Bilinski-Gelder. Are there any questions from members of the Council? I can't see any. Are there any questions from members of the public? No, we will move on then. Questions for the Cabinet Member of Finance, Assets and Public Protection, Councillor Matthew Tomlinson. Are there any questions from members of the Council? And I've got Councillor Damien Bretherton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm assuming the assets include the football pitches. We've had a resident that lives in our ward that actually manages an under-7s football team, and I believe the letter has gone to the leader of the council already. He's probably had sight of it. But the question was with regards to the football pitches. The comments were that the football matches are having to be cancelled because of flooding issues. I understand that there's not a lot we can do about the rain coming down. But the question was, have we got any plans in place to investigate the flooded pitches, and will we do anything about it to drain them so that the under-7s and the various football teams can play without having to cancel matches? Thank you.
I don't know who should be answering this, but I see Councillor Foster.
Yeah, sorry, I thought my time was up, so I've got a throat lozenge during that.
Absolutely.
It was actually Councillor Campbell that wrote to me, so I think your ward councillor about this. So slight bit of confusion here, Mayor, because clearly there's the grass pitches and there's the all-weather pitches up at Bamber Bridge. The letter that you're referring to is actually a complaint from the Junior Football League that some of their matches had to be postponed, Councillor Bretherton, because of the car parking issues, not the rain. Now, clearly, where we do suffer with our grass pitches all around Borough, down at Pennyholme and the other pitches, is when it rains, they do flood. And it's absolutely, I know you like to blame me for everything, but on this one, I think I'm innocent. There's nothing we can do about the weather has been appalling for the last 3 months. What that then means is that there's more demand for the all-weather pitches, Damien. And we have problems because of the huge demand then for the pitches out in Bamber Bridge. This is the issues of car parking. The challenges we have up there is, and there's a note going to come back to you both, is we need the junior leagues, Mayor, to then abide by the car parking policies that we've asked, because there's different kick-off times and we're asking people to park in different areas so that we get a proper flow of traffic and the issues would be resolved. However, getting the leagues and the families to park where we ask them to park, because they're all given designated car parks, is becoming quite a challenge. Therefore, because ultimately we have to put the local residents first, we've had to reduce the number of fixtures there, whilst we still keep working with the leagues to try and get them abide by the allocation of car parking spots. So then the issue with rain, as you say, it's inevitable when the other matches are called off. There are more people than attending the site in Bamber Bridge, hoping they can get on the pitches there, which is just impossible because of the huge demand. I'll write to you both with a more detailed response, but it's I know Councillor Hunter is dealing with this. We're trying to get it sorted. There's enough car parking provision now up at Bamber Bridge. It just needs to be used in a smarter way.
So, I will move back to questions to Matthew Tomlinson, and we now have Councillor Margaret Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I hope Councillor Tomlinson will forgive me for not giving him prior notice of this. We are very grateful in the Western parishes for Longton Playground going ahead. We're very grateful for that. And we're very grateful in New Longton that the pathways through the park have all been resurfaced, and the drainage has been done there, and there is considerable upgrading has been done. But at the moment, we are waiting for the playground to be refurbished. And I understand that there has been some hiccup in the system with the tender, and the tenders are not coming back till the 1st of March, which is fine. But the social value portal is not coming back till the mid-March, which means that it won't be able to come to Cabinet until June, which means it will then be too late for us to have the playground refurbished this spring, and it's going to look like it's going to go into September. I'm just wondering if all the items come back from the social portal, the social value portal, and the quotes come back, is it possible to sort of move it along a little bit quicker by maybe a delegated decision on your behalf in your power as finance portfolio holder, so that we could perhaps have it done in the spring, and we don't have to wait till September? That was my first question. Can I please have another one?
Yeah, fair enough.
It's a very quick question, this one. Right. Regarding the item I talked to Councillor Foster about, which was the driving licences, it is a shared services item, and I'm wondering whether these two reports that are limited in rating would be better served going to shared services as well, so that they're aware of the problems with the IT security and the driving licences. Thank you. I said it was quick.
Councillor Tomlinson.
Thank you. Can I first of all thank her for her comments. We are investing in parks and playgrounds right across this borough, and members here will have seen me stand up and recite the list, and I'm happy to do that at any time. But as you said, Mr. Mayor, it's a long meeting already, so I probably wouldn't. But we're not just investing in labour areas either. Longton, Hutton, New Longton, all getting money spent on improving parks and playgrounds. Can I say I'm shocked? I'm shocked that she would ask me to circumnavigate the workings of this council. Surely we all hold in our hearts the processes that we look after the public money. I couldn't possibly comment any further. And as for the shared services, the brief answer is no, actually. I think if you want to monitor the performance of a service as it works within this council, then you do it through scrutiny. The Shared Services Committee is to ensure that shared services is operating as we should see fit and explore opportunities potentially for further shared services, but not, in my view, as the new chair, to monitor performance of that shared service. Each council has its own way of doing that. I'm not saying we shouldn't do it. If Councillor Mrs. Smith wants to raise it, then I'm sure that work can be done, but it's not the job, in my view, of the Shared Services Committee.
Thank you, Councillor Tomlinson. I can't see any further questions from council for you. Are there any questions from members of the public? Nope. We move on then to questions for the Cabinet Member, Customer Services and Digital, Councillor Ian Watkinson. Are there any questions from members of the council? Councillor Margaret Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. After this, I will sit down and behave myself. Unfortunately, or fortunately, because I was on holiday, I wasn't able to join the governance committee because it had changed its date from January to February. So therefore, I wasn't able to comment on the report that went to the governance committee about the physical security and the environmental control regarding our IT. I've read the report since then with quite a lot of interest to see, because I was, the schedule that things are now being done to rectify the problems that we have got with the physical security of our IT, which, let's face it, is exceedingly important. The fact that people couldn't just walk in there really is quite astonishing. But nevertheless, it has been given a limited rating, as had the one I spoke to previously, as regards that I spoke to Councillor Foster about. The auditors have given it 11 priorities that have to be done immediately because of the absolute priority needed to get this systems looked after and carefully secured. The two that do concern me, though, are about the just a moment, about the cooling, keeping things cool in the IT departments. And this is a priority, and all four of the areas, the two in Chorley and the two in South Ribble, are affected by this. What concerns me is the schedules have all got somebody either designated to sort it out and a date on it. That particular one, there is no date and there is no person designated to actually sort it out. I'm concerned about that, and I wonder why and how long it's going to be before we put that priority right. And the further one is, and I think this one also is a priority, has been given higher priority, is the amount of equipment that is stored in these departments, particularly in South Ribble. And I'll read to you, it has a substantial IT equipment stored within them. The excess storage not only raises concerns about accessibility, but also poses potential fire and safety hazard. Now, I know at the meeting, I understand that the officer there said that he was getting quotes within the next day or so. I'm asking, has the quotes come in? How much are they? And how quickly will we be disposing and clearing up the IT department? Thank you.
Well, thanks very much, Councillor Smith, for those questions. It would have been lovely to have had advance notice of them, but thanks for raising them. Anything to do with security is of paramount importance, as is anything to do with safety. So, and of course, limited rating is something that needs to be dealt with swiftly. So it is a priority. We'll be dealing with it. I'll be looking into this as swiftly as possible to get you those details. I can't give you dates and times right now, but I will get them to you as soon as possible. Okay. Thanks for your question.
Thank you. Are there any more questions from members of the council? Nope. Any questions from members of the public? No, I will move on to questions for the Cabinet Member for Planning, Business Support and Economic Development, Councillor James Flannery. James is joining us online. I do have a question from Councillor Ange Turner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, with regard to the recent planning application for the change of use from livery stables to a dog training centre at Lindell Lane in Hutton, would the Cabinet Member agree with me that following an appeal by the applicant, together with a minded to decision to approve this application in its entirety, supported by all Labour members on the Planning Committee, it is a truly momentous turnaround that the National Planning Inspector in Bristol determined the decision, and I quote, "The appeal is dismissed and planning permission is refused in its entirety as a truly remarkable decision."
Would Councillor Flannery like to address us?
Can you hear me, Mayor? Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Apologies. It's the first time I've missed council through illness. I'm just not well this afternoon, but it's been interesting listening. Well, thanks for your question, Councillor. I probably won't agree. I don't agree with much, to be honest, with what you say, but I accept that you've made your statements and your point. And if you want to arrange a meeting to go into any detail about the decision, feel free to contact the officers. Thank you.
Thank you. One supplementary, of course.
Residential amenity and the precious biodiversity that we have in the Greenbelt area of South Ribble.
Councillor Turner, I'm trying to help you. Councillor Turner, I'm trying to help you here. Unfortunately, the beginning of your question was missed because the system crashed. If you would like to start again, we might be able to hear it.
I didn't hear what you said. Does the Cabinet member agree with me that it was a great result for the residents of Longton, New Longton, Hutton and Penwortham and the surrounding area, all having representation in the residents group that was formed? This now means residential amenity and the precious biodiversity that we have in the Green Belt area of South Ribble will be protected from what was a totally inappropriate application that would have generated unbearable noise and disturbance in anyone's book.
Thank you.
Is that a question, Mr. Mayor, you need me to respond to?
Sorry, Councillor Flannery.
I said, is that a question you would like me to respond to?
I said, does the Cabinet member agree with me?
Yes, is the answer.
Yes, is the answer to the question, or for me to respond?
If you could answer the said question, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, well, apart from the grandstanding which appears to be going on, I think every planning committee member, like most councillors, probably nearly every councillor with the exception of one or two, has the interests of all the residents at heart on any decision which is taken. So obviously a decision has been taken. People on the planning committee, which is represented by all parties, dealt with the information they had at hand. So like I said, if you feel free to arrange a meeting, if you want any further detail, and I'd be happy to go through all the detail of any of the planning issues with you and any other councillor.
Thank you. I have a question from Councillor Paul Wharton-Hardman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm asking a question. A member of public has written to Councillor Alty and I regarding an installation of a 5G mast in Farrington. The member of the public is concerned as they believe that this has been approved by this council, and I've explained to them that the government legislation allows this permitted development. On the minutes of Farrington Parish Council from February, Councillor Mary Green, who is a member of this planning committee, explained that this would have been an officer's decision rather than the planning committee. Can I confirm if any officer from this authority has granted delegated permission for the installation of this 5G mast?
Okay, thank you for your question, Paul. First of all, I don't want to name people in any of this, but masts, like a lot of infrastructure projects, are national. They go through the national planning process, not local. So to answer your question, it will not have been decided locally. But I'm sure, people get things wrong from time to time, and I don't think it was met with any malice. Thank you.
I can't see any more councillors wanting to speak. Are there any members of the public wanting to speak? No. Okay, I will move on to questions for the Cabinet Member, Community Wealth Building, Social Justice, Equality and Diversity, Councillor Jackie Alty. Are there any questions from any members of the council? No. Are there any questions from members of the public? Nope. I will move on. Questions for the Cabinet Member, Communities, Leisure and Wellbeing. Councillor Claire Hunter. Are there any questions from members of the council? And I have got Councillor Damien Bretherton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's just regarding the Leyland Leisure Centre. I understand there might be a problem with the heating systems. There's been a number of our residents that have complained that the inside the building is quite cold, and recently some users, service users, were sent home because of the cold conditions. I'm just wondering if you could clarify if you're aware of any heating issues that's happening at the moment. Thank you.
Councillor Hunter.
Vaguely aware. I've not been filled up on any recent ones. I have heard that we've, because of the decarbonisation that's going on, it's affected the heating. So basically, I've been aware that we've put extra electric heaters in, and the fact is the work is still going on. So if there is any complaints, just let me know and I can, examine them really.
Yeah. You do have a supplementary?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Are we aware of when the works will be completed, when the heating system will be fully functional? Thank you.
Decarbonisation is more or less finished. I mean, it will be finished within weeks, and then we are looking to refurbish the leisure centres. We have £3 million to spend on updating our leisure centres. So everything within a few months should be obviously completed. I couldn't give you an exact date, obviously, but I will keep following it up and I will keep you informed.
Thank you. Councillor Caleb Tomlinson.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Would the Cabinet Member like to join me in wishing Councillor Jo Hindle-Taylor a safe landing in her kamikaze skydive for charity? Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
For a wonderful charity.
Yes, Councillor Tomlinson, I would like to back you up. We have a lot of councillors here doing things for charity, as in i.e. Paul Foster and Jo Hindle, and I hope she has a safe landing. I'm very unsure about sponsoring her in case things go wrong. But
all right, moving on. Councillor David Howarth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I'm going to apologise in advance because I'm not exactly sure whose portfolio this is. So if it's not yours, if you could probably scribble it on a note and just pass it along to whoever it is. But it's going back to what Councillor Foster mentioned about the 50th anniversary celebrations. So I'm not exactly sure who's responsible for that. But I was surprised when I read on Facebook that this walk was taking place as a part of the 50th anniversary celebrations, because certainly up until now, we didn't know anything about it. Now, given that Councillor Margaret Smith and Councillor Matthew Tomlinson and myself from all three parties are the three longest serving members of this council, Councillor Smith being the mother of the house, Councillor Tomlinson being the father of the house, and that probably makes me the baby bear. But I'm sure we would all like to be involved, and especially in the planning of events that are taking place. So if there is a sneak preview of this paper that's going to the Cabinet, if you could advise whether there was going to be cross-party involvement in this, it would be most welcome.
I think that's my portfolio, so I'll pass over to Councillor Foster.
Yes, well, I'm sure you'll be writing to us all, though it should be. There we go. Have we any other questions from councillors? No, I've got to ask, are there any questions from members of the public? No, that's fantastic. We now go on to item 11. Council Tax Support Scheme, and your pages 21 to 34. This is for decision. Can I please ask the Cabinet Member, Councillor Ian Watkinson, to present the report?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The purpose of the report is to change the amount of war pension income that is disregarded in the Council Tax Support Scheme
and Housing Benefit Modified Scheme from April 2024. The recommendations set out increase the amount of war pension income disregarded in the council tax support scheme and housing benefit modified schemes from the 1st of April. Based on the income and circumstances of existing claimants who receive war pensions, the disregarded amount of £290 is currently the maximum support we can allow for both schemes, council tax support and the housing benefit modified scheme. And the proposals we're bringing forward tonight are to increase the disregard of war pension income from £290 to 100%. That's for both schemes. These changes will protect future claimants whose other income may mean they might not receive full help towards their rent or council tax under the current schemes. I'm really pleased to say that these changes will support the Royal British Legion campaign to end the treatment of military compensation as income by welfare benefit means tests. Our veterans, all of them, deserve our respect and gratitude for serving our country, and these proposals demonstrate our appreciation of their service and sacrifice.
Thank you, Councillor Watkinson. Is this seconded?
Seconded.
Thank you. Are there any questions from members of the council? Councillor Karen Walton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Conservative group definitely support this, and like has just been the comment that we should support our veterans and respect them and thank them for all they've done for us. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. I don't think you need to comment. Are there any further comments from council? No. Are there any questions from members of the public? Oh, sorry. You didn't come up there, Matthew. Councillor Matthew Farnworth.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to speak on this recommendation as a council's armed forces champion. As many of you know, South Ribble is proudly signed up to the Silver Award in the MOD's ERS Armed Forces Covenant Scheme, which principles state those who have served in the armed forces and their families should face no disadvantage compared to other citizens in the provision of public and commercial services. So I just want to thank Councillor Watkinson for moving the report, and Anne Bibby in Benefits in particular for prompt work on this matter. Since the summer, I've been working with the Royal British Legion, who approached all the armed forces champions involved in the Lancashire Armed Forces Covenants and their families. Now, unlike civilian payments for workplace injuries, a considerable amount of local authorities in the UK still treat some or all military compensation payments as income, meaning that veterans are missing out on a substantial amount of money. These people have served our country, and many of them face life-changing injuries as a result. The changes are more of a technicality because of things like the council tax support discretionary payment scheme, which most claimants are already covered by. But I understand that there's currently 8 claimants who would be affected by the proposed change. Now, 8 might seem quite small, but just imagine the impact the changes will have on those 8 families. It is estimated that if every local authority in the country adopted this campaign, around 10,000 veterans could benefit from this small change. So for me, it's pretty much a no-brainer, and I'd urge council to support the proposals. Now, I know we've got a lot on, but just one thing, Mayor. On the Friday, the 15th of March, it will be the inaugural meeting of the Charlie and South Ribble Armed Forces Covenant Group, which will bring together members of our armed forces, community groups and other stakeholders across the borough in each quarter of the year. So I'm asking members, if you do know of any specific groups who are involved in anything to do with armed forces, particularly in places like the Western Parishes or Sainsbury, then please contact me directly. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Farnworth. I have no other requests to speak in front of me, so I've got to say, are there any members of the public wishing to speak? No, smashing. We're now at the end of the debate on this proposal. Now, please only vote once the voting goes live. Press your button firmly, but once. Okay, and we are going to vote for, against, or abstain. So please press your buttons now. Again, that is clearly carried. Thank you very much indeed. Okay, we now go on to item 12. Council tax, local discounts and premiums policies, page 35 to 62. This item is for decision. Can I please ask the Cabinet Member, Customs and Digital, Councillor Ian Watkinson, to present the report?
Yeah.
Should turn red in one moment.
Voice. Oh, there we go. Okay. Thanks very much, Mr. Mayor. On this item, so councils have discretion to vary the levels of discounts and premiums awarded on certain types of properties. The council tax local discounts and premiums policy was last reviewed in April 2020. The Levelling Up and Regeneration Bill 2023 introduced new local discretionary powers to allow council tax to allow a new that's a long word for tonight. Discretionary council tax premium of up to 100% on second homes, and also includes discretionary powers to amend the definition of long-term empty homes to dwellings unoccupied and substantially unfurnished for a continuous period of 1 year. So the current policy is summarised at point 17 with a comparison of the existing policy options that were consulted upon and proposed policy changes set out also at point 44. You will have looked at them already, I'm sure. The recommendations include changes from 1st of April 24 to the amount of council tax local discounts awarded to empty and substantially unfurnished properties. The key proposed changes are to reduce the period when 100% discount is awarded from 6 months to 3 months, and to decrease the amount of discount awarded from 100% to 50% when a property is empty for 3 to 6 months. The report also recommends that from 1st of April 2025, a council tax premium of 100% is charged on second homes, and the period when a council tax premium is applied to long-term properties is amended from 2 years to 12 months. Importantly, alongside local discounts and premiums, statutory exemptions can be awarded in circumstances when a property is empty, and these exemptions include if an owner or occupier of a property has passed away, or the property was the sole or main residence of a person who has moved to receive or provide care. Council taxpayers eligible for exemptions will not be affected by these proposed changes and will continue to have zero council tax to pay. In addition, exceptions to premiums are recommended for approval in predefined conditions outlined at point 21. These include when a property is empty and undergoing probate for up to 12 months, is being marketed for sale or to let, that's up to 6 months, and homes undergoing major repairs, that's also 6 months. Mr. Mayor, these proposals are not financially motivated. Their intention is to provide greater incentive for owners of empty properties and second homes to bring them back into use as quickly as possible, thereby increasing the supply of safe, secure and affordable housing in our communities. And of course, this supports our vision and priorities for the borough to have a choice of decent, affordable housing. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Is this seconded?
Seconded, Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any questions from members of the council? Right, we will start with Councillor Jane Bell. Thank you.
It's a very simple question. How many houses does it actually affect? I've had a quick shufty of the report and I can't find anything that says that.
Councillor Bell, without going and looking at the report, I've got to feel it's around 260 or 240. It's in the report, though. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Damien Bretherton.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to just query something about the up to 6 months, reducing it to 3 months. My concern really is from the tenant's point of view. We all know what's happened over the last 10 years with the reduction of homes available for tenants, with the higher taxation, higher regulation, etc. I'm just concerned that we might be going down a similar route to Preston City Council, where we reduce that period to 1 month. The problem with that is when a tenant moves out of a property and the landlord needs to refurbish it and then put it for advertising, up to 6 months has been really good in South Ribble. It's worked well. But from experience, when you go to Preston City Council, there is a problem where the landlord gets penalised after 1 month when he's trying to make the place nice for the next tenant. I don't know if Councillor Foster will remember, but when I first became a councillor, one of the first questions that I asked at the cabinet meeting was, I hope the cabinet doesn't go down the Preston model of reducing the exemption. And Councillor Foster replied that he'll work with landlords. I probably won't remember that far back. So what I would like to ask is, if, for example, a tenant moves out and the landlord might not be major works. It might be replacing things, or it might need a plumber to come in or an electrician. And some of the consultees actually mentioned sequencing of trades, which can be a problem in this day and age. Sometimes you have to wait a few weeks for a plumber to come and for a joiner to come, etc. So my question is, if the landlord finds himself in that situation, and it goes beyond the 3 months, you did mention the word discretionary. If the landlord came to the council and said, look, I'm really sorry, I'm trying to make this nice for the next tenant, and I'm just waiting for a joiner to fit a few doors that have been damaged or whatever, or a carpet that needs replacing, whatever, has the council got discretion? Has the council got discretion to work with the landlord and say, well, we understand what you're going through. We understand you want to make the property nice for the next tenant, and therefore we won't penalise you with the extra council tax. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks very much for your question. It's clear in the report that there are discretionary powers for us, and there will be exceptions made. You wouldn't expect me to speculate on the precise details, and I know you just described a scenario there, but making sure that we're providing the right service for tenants and the landlords is important, and we'll make sure we do that. There's no plans to operate with a 1 month cut off in the same way that Preston do. So we'll definitely look at each case on its own merits, with the priority, of course, for tenants and landlords.
Thank you. Councillor Pete, are you coming back with a supplementary? Okay.
I'd like to thank you for that response. It was something I was hoping for, and I can have confidence now that should a situation arise where a landlord needs to go the full 6 months, then the discretion is available, and it's not a definite no. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Bretherton. Councillor Pete Pillinger.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. In the responses to the questionnaire that went out on page 46 and number point 21, right at the end, the respondent puts, you need to deal with Airbnb. Can you confirm that we have currently no power to deal with Airbnb? In Buckshaw Village, we have a number of properties designed as 4-bedroom houses for families being let out for sleeping 10 at £170+ a night. And it's a totally unsuitable use of the buildings. which only have 2 parking spaces, and it is a problem that's arising. My suspicion is that legislation has yet to deal with this matter, but I'd be grateful if you can confirm that.
Councillor Watkinson.
Yeah, thanks very much for that comment and question, Councillor. I believe that planning are looking into that at the moment. I'm not aware personally of any involvement with Airbnb, but we'll look into that and get back to you.
Thank you. I have nothing else on my screen from councillors. Are there any questions from members of the public? No, we will now move to the vote. For, against or abstain. Please only press your button once and firmly once the system goes live. Thank you. Live. Again, that is clearly carried. Thank you very much. Okay, we move on to item 13. Revenue Budget 24-25, Medium-Term Financial Strategy and Capital Programme 24-27. These are on pages 63 to 78. This item is for decision. Before I ask the Cabinet member to introduce the report, I believe there has been a minor change to the figures in Appendix A, which has been reissued this afternoon. Can the Director of Financial and Section 151 officer provide some clarification on this?
I just wanted to alert members to the purpose of the republication of Appendix A is simply that in point 1A, the original Appendix A stated that the council tax base was 38,309 Band D equivalent properties, and that was provided to the parishes in early November, where actually the figure should have been updated to reflect the council tax that was provided to the major preceptors at the end of January. So it's just simply a change in the number. It's a correction for the purposes of accuracy. It does not impact on the council tax figures or the council tax that is reported in Appendix A as being the charge from South Ribble Council, and it does not impact on any of the figures presented in the budget papers before you tonight.
Thank you. There are no questions on that, which is fantastic. Can I ask the Cabinet Member for Finance, Assets and Public Protection, Councillor Matthew Tomlinson, to present the report?
I thought you'd never ask, Mr. Mayor. It's been a while. Just seriously, though, before I do start the speech, this would be a named vote. And I recall the last time we had a named vote, we did have people watching online who couldn't hear what people said, who didn't put the microphone on. So if I can remind members, when your name is called, if you'll switch your mic on before you say yes or no, that would be really helpful to those watching on YouTube. Mr. Mayor, it's my privilege to rise and propose the 5th consecutive Labour budget for this authority. In doing so, I'd like to thank the Council's Section 151 officer, Louise Mattinson, for her professionalism and diligence in putting this budget together. It's no mean task, and I'm grateful to her and her team for the support and advice I receive throughout the year. In a world where the government presents us with year-on-year financial settlements and where we literally don't know how much funding we have to work with until a few short weeks before budget-setting deadlines, the work of our finance team is to be applauded by all. I'd also like to thank my fellow Cabinet members and the whole Labour group for their continued support and challenge during this difficult budget setting process. Balancing our ambitions with the financial realities we face is never easy, but our constructive and collegiate approach as a group means we can present a budget which we can all celebrate together. It's also right we take this opportunity to say thank you to all of our staff for everything they do every single day. From leisure to licensing, from planning to parks, we have a team of staff who regularly go the extra mile to provide our residents with a service of which I'm sure we are all very, very proud. Mr. Mayor, throughout the 5 years we've been leading this authority, we have demonstrated we are committed to an ambitious programme of transformation, both within the council itself, but also out in our communities. We have transformed children's play areas in every corner of our borough. We have invested in and improved all our major parks, and last year, for the very first time, we were able to celebrate the fact that no less than 4 of our major parks had been given the prestigious Green Flag Award. We've ended the outsourcing of our waste collection service and our leisure provision. We have funded the operation of a credit union. We have built the first South Rural Borough Council owned houses for over a generation. We've introduced social value to our procurement processes. We are an accredited living wage employer, and we have a successful apprentice recruitment programme. We've developed the council's first biodiversity strategy. We planted around 200,000 trees and improved miles and miles of green footpaths, cycleways and bridleways to support and encourage people to get out and about around our borough. We supported community organisations in Muchhool and Gregson Lane to realise their dreams of having a brand new state-of-the-art venue which can serve those communities for years to come. In Lostock Hall, we've purchased a rundown building and are now able to see it being used as a vital family wellbeing centre right in the heart of our borough. And in Bamber Bridge, we have developed a state-of-the-art football facility that is the envy of councils around the county. We've supported community events such as Lostock Hall Carnival, Penwortham Live and Leyland Festival, and of course the award-winning Music in the Park event that has been attracting such positive attention from people across our region. And we've delivered tens of thousands of meals to our most vulnerable children with our holiday hunger scheme and the holidays and activities and food programme. All of this and more delivered during a period when we have experienced the worst health crisis this country has known for a century, suffered under a chaotic government that crashed the economy, and endured an inflation rate which reached a 40-year high. How rewarding then, Mr. Mayor, that our ambition for our borough and our commitment to a programme of investment in our people and our places was recognised and rewarded by the electorate of South Ribble last May. An increase in the number of Labour councillors from 22 in 2019 to 29 today. An influx of new councillors with new ideas and a mandate from our electorate to continue our commitment to our values and our people. Now, surprisingly, Mr. Mayor, despite all this positivity, we have faced opposition from within the council chamber itself. The previous Tory administration ignored the desires of the committees of Muchhool Village Hall for years. They made sympathetic noises but took no action to support the people of Gregson Lane in their desire to build a new community centre, and they left the Mackenzie Arms site as a blight on one of this borough's main thoroughfares. Since they've been in opposition, never forget that the Conservatives opposed the redevelopment of Worden Hall, didn't support our plans for the Mackenzie Arms houses, and tried to stop the Jubilee Gardens development with an election campaign based upon the unfounded fear of a debt-ridden council. It's clear to me that our Conservative group currently lacks a real vision of what a constructive opposition looks like. Whilst we in the Labour group discussed the town deal, the Penwitham master plan and a £20 million housing development, the most recent interventions from the Tory benches have featured arguments about whether the door on a listed building in Leyland should be red or blue, and a request at full council to change the time that the bins are emptied in their group leader's ward. So now, Mr. Mayor, I turn to this year's plans. We are once again in a position to put before council an exciting programme of delivery, which quite literally builds on the work we have done over the past 5 years. In Leyland, the Town Deal project will continue throughout 24-25, as will the work next door, to realise our ambition to provide high quality apartments for South Ribble's older residents. We'll continue our programme of playground refurbishment, with projects coming forward in New Longton, Tidygate, Longton and Margaret Road, Penwitham. Work will begin on delivering the Penwitham master plan. With £2 million of funding already in the budget, we will now be asking officers to bring forward further reports to this council containing scheme appraisals and the potential funding arrangements to deliver on our ambitions for the town. We will also spend £300,000 on the Penwitham Home to Howick Green link. Our leisure centres are now well on the way to being decarbonised, with significant investment in the background operations, including work to future-proof heating systems for all 3 of our pools. And in 24-25, we will move forward with £3 million of investment in new changing areas, improved reception areas, and a new modern look to how our leisure centres present themselves to the public. Our innovative work with partners through our social subscribers will become embedded in the work we do every day, and there is significant investment to support the emerging work of the Family Wellbeing Centre in Lostock Hall. Mr. Mayor, South Ribble is a place of which we are all proud. Our continued commitment to its people and its places means we can propose a budget tonight which has something for the youngest residents and something for the oldest residents, something for leisure and something for business, something for those who rightly say we need more housing, and something for those who want to protect our valuable green spaces. There's something here for all areas right across our borough. Furthermore, Mr. Mayor, I'm delighted to say we will deliver all of these initiatives while proposing a balanced budget with no need to draw on the cash reserves we currently hold. This council has a long track record of being one which manages its finances well. Our general reserve remains higher than the £4 million minimum that the council has set itself. And we now also have a budget pressure reserve, which is intended to protect us against unforeseen financial shocks in the future, as well as retaining a business rates reserve of almost £2.5 million to protect us against changes in the business rate pooling arrangements. Our finances remain secure. Mr. Mayor, for the first time in 4 years, we are proposing an increase in council tax. In an economy where inflation has been as high as 11%, where wage inflation is somewhere around 7%, and the council's costs continue to suffer from increases beyond its control, the proposed increase of 2.99% is the equivalent of just 13 pence a week for a Band D council taxpayer. And it should be noted that the government has already assumed that the council will be taking this increase as a part of its core funding calculations. Mr. Mayor, this council under Labour control has demonstrated time and time again that our ambition for our borough remains undiminished, even in the most trying of financial times. But what we've also demonstrated is that our ambition is rooted in strong financial planning and an absolute commitment to ensuring that our council taxpayers get the best value for money that we can deliver. This borough's coat of arms, Mr. Mayor, features the word progress with humanity. And that is what this budget delivers. And I call upon every councillor in the chamber to get back behind these plans and deliver on the promises we made to our residents last May. I move, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Tomlinson. I knew I'd have time to finish my sweetie. Is that seconded?
Yes, Mayor, seconded. I reserve the right to speak later if you may. Thank you.
Absolutely. Now, we have received 2 proposed amendments. I will take this in the order that we have received them. So the first amendment received was from the Liberal Democrat group. If someone wants to speak on that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It was remiss of me not to put on the bottom who was proposing it and who was seconding it, so I do apologise. But as you probably gathered, I'm proposing it. Can I first of all commend Councillor Tomlinson on his presentation of the budget? I fully recognise that after the May elections, you do have a majority and you do have a mandate. I might not agree with everything that is within the budget. Where we do agree, we will continue to support you, certainly as we did over the devolution proposals, and where we don't agree, we will continue to oppose accordingly. That said, I think you're quite right when you alluded to the fact that we have a party in government at the moment that claims to be the party of low taxation, and yet we've now paying the highest taxes in living memory, and the fact that we are setting a budget against a background of a local government settlement where they not only assume we will raise the income tax, they expect us, the council tax, they expect us to raise the council tax because that is built into the local government finance settlement. So that said, my only other question I have for you, Councillor Tomlinson, is could I have your lottery ticket numbers at the end of this meeting? Because having fallen on your feet with an unexpected increase in business rates income in the past, you've now fallen on your feet with an unexpected income from new homes bonus, so that we don't have to use the £500,000 drawdown from reserves that was first proposed to the Cabinet. What I am proposing is not any criticism of the budget. It is in addition to serve our residents and to add to the benefits of what we deliver for them. And I hope that members will take this amendment on its merits and not on the personality of those who are proposing it. To start with other parks and open spaces, we already have a budget in Hurst Grange Park to actually replace paths and to replace the path where the old trim trail used to be. But what we do not have is the funding as yet to replace the old trim trail equipment. We have priced this up with officers. It wouldn't be a great deal amount of money, but it would enable us to replace that trim trail equipment and add to the works that are already going to be done. This is one of our community hub projects as well. So if we don't have to find the funding from the community hub, it would also free up funding there that could be used on other projects. We'd also like to add an ecology and diversity budget to maintain ponds and wildlife corridors. We have a number of ponds, certainly in our area, one of which is an abandoned pond because developers went bankrupt and went into liquidation, and the Duchy of Lancaster have no intention of doing anything with it. It would be a great loss to our wildlife if that pond was just allowed to continue to fall into rack and ruin. And we do have nature reserves elsewhere that could benefit from funding. A fair economy that works for everyone, unlike the Conservatives, who I don't think understand how speed indicators actually work and where you can and can't put them. We are proposing that we have an additional 10 mobile speed indicator devices, and we've also priced this up as well because this was a community hub proposal to the Boost Fund, which was unable to go ahead. So we know the cost of what these speed indicators cost, and we know the cost of the testing to actually put them on lampposts, which I suspect has not been factored in to the other amendment that's coming. We'd also like £15,000 to support district centre Christmas and promotional schemes. We have a stock of Christmas banners, and we have the brackets to hang them on along Liverpool Road in the district centre. Unfortunately, when we came to ask for them to be put up last Christmas, we didn't have the 3,500 to actually do it, because there was only 2,800 left in the community hub budget. We have other promotional banners which Councillor Flannery, for example, had introduced along Leyland Road, and we have them elsewhere in the borough. So next Christmas, it would be a great addition if we could actually have celebrations and celebrate Christmas in all of our districts areas, and not just in the centre of Leyland, where you have the lights switch on and all of the other decorations that take place. In terms of thriving communities, we have in the past asked for the provision of new and replacement bus shelters. We had a bus shelter where it had a corrugated iron roof with rusted holes in it, and anybody standing under it was getting drowned by the rain coming through it. We have a number of bus shelters in the borough which really are at the end of their life, if you like, and could do with some, certainly, replacement. And finally, we would like to double the community hub budgets. £5,000 for a community hub wouldn't have paid for a number of the schemes we've already done in the past. Councillor Hancock had his deer placed as on one of the roundabouts as you enter Penwitham. £5,000 wouldn't have paid for that. It certainly won't pay for every scheme that the community hub wants to do. So I don't think it's unreasonable for a doubling of that to 10,000 to enable meaningful community projects to take part. Hopefully you can support our amendment. If not, hopefully you can support it in part, and I therefore wish to move.
Thank you very much, Councillor Howarth. Is this seconded?
Yes, that's seconded by myself.
Thank you. Are there any councillors wishing to speak on this amendment, for or against? No. No. Councillor Matthew Tomlinson.
Thank you. I don't want to have a long debate on this, but as the person who proposed the original motion, I suppose I ought to respond to it. Can I say that several of these things we're quite happy to engage in a conversation with you, David, outside the meeting, and would have been prepared to do so before that. I'm not convinced that this, when I propose a budget, that this type of inserting this individual scheme is the way I'd like to progress. Just for council's information, we talked about bus shelters at the last meeting. We are currently going through, just concluding a review of all of our bus shelters, bins and benches, I think. So members will be interested to see the result of that. So I'm not going to support this. But what I am going to say is that if people want to talk about the individual parts, I think there's things in here we can support, but I would prefer not to do it as part of the budget.
Thank you. Is anyone else wanting to speak on this amendment? Councillor Michael Green.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. It's just one point where Councillor Howarth makes a reference to the cost of the spids. If you look at the subsequent amendment that will come forward, I think that allows for a greater amount than yours does. So I think it is covered. That's all. I don't wish to say anything further.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else wishing? Councillor Margaret Smith.
It's just a comment, Mr. Mayor, regarding the hub budget. I think Councillor Howarth, some hubs don't get even £5,000 The Western Parishes gets 3,500 because you get £500 per councillor, and we've got 7, so we get 3,500. So 10,000 would be very welcome. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak on the amendment? I can't see anyone. We will then move to the vote. Don't forget, only press your button once we have gone live. Or is it a name? It is the first of the named votes, I am informed. So please, when you are replying, put your microphone on. Thank you. I will now hand over.
Councillor Adams.
Against.
Councillor Alty.
Against.
Councillor Ashton.
Against.
Councillor Bedford.
Against.
Councillor Bell. Councillor Bretherton.
For.
Councillor Buttery. Councillor Belinsky-Gelder.
Against.
Councillor Campbell.
For.
Councillor Coulton. Councillor Farnworth. Councillor Forshaw.
Against.
Councillor Foster.
Against.
Councillor Gabbett.
Against.
Councillor Gleave. Councillor Mary Green.
For.
Councillor Michael Green. Councillor Hancock. Councillor Hindle Taylor. Councillor Howarth. Councillor Hunter. Councillor Jackson. Councillor Lillis. Councillor Lomax.
Against.
Councillor Martin. You click that. Through that. He's pressed it. Back. Back thing. Nothing. That one. That one. Click that one. It'll go on. Yeah. Not both of them.
Against.
Councillor Molyneux. Councillor Pillinger. Councillor Pritchard.
Against.
Councillor Rea. Councillor Roberts.
Against.
Councillor Sharples.
Against.
Councillor Shaw.
For.
Councillor Margaret Smith.
For.
Councillor Phil Smith.
For.
Councillor Stevens.
Against.
Councillor Stringfellow. Councillor Caleb Tomlinson.
Against.
Councillor Matthew Tomlinson.
Against.
Councillor Turner.
For.
Councillor Unsworth. Councillor Walton.
For.
Councillor Watkinson. Councillor Watson. Councillor Wharton Hardman.
Against.
Councillor Williams.
Against.
No, it's definitely not carried. It's definitely not carried.
That falls. We now move on to the second amendment, which is put forward by the Conservative group, and it's going to be proposed by Karen Watson, Leader of the Opposition. I do apologise.
My secret. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for allowing me the opportunity to address the council tonight. The Conservative group intend to put forward the 4 amendments to the proposed budget tonight, of which you've got a copy. All members have got a copy of the amendments for your consideration. The amendments have been carefully considered and costed in consultation with the S15 officer, Louise, and can be accommodated within the 2024-25 budget. Firstly, I want to thank all the officers and staff for their hard work throughout the past years for all the residents of South Ribble. We have found ourselves again in very challenging times, with residents again finding the last 12 months very difficult, with many of them facing an uncertain future and struggling financially due to the continuing war in Ukraine and global forces continuing to affect the cost of living and energy prices. We feel it is very important to support our residents during these difficult financial times, but support the increase of the council tax by 2.99% for the coming financial year, as the increase assists in the costs for the council, especially in the cost of energy prices, which are having a negative effect on the council's budget. And this will come at an increasing cost to the council now and in the future years. With a predicted budget deficit of £651,000 for the next financial year of 2024-25 and of £1,498,000 for the year 2026-27, the capital programme projected to be over £81 million by the year 2026-27, and the total earmarks reserved already reduced by over £4 million this financial year. This Labour administration faces considerable challenges. The administration has continued the good work which the previous Conservative administration began, with supporting the award-winning green flag parks and refurbishing many of the major playgrounds in the borough. It continues to support businesses, creating good employment opportunities, working with partners, developing the apprentice factory, delivering new social and affordable homes, supporting our ageing and vulnerable residents, developing and supporting the volunteer and the faith sectors, business transformation to support the climate change agenda. The list does go on. But residents must have access to the most appropriate services and support when they need it most. But the cuts to this budget going forward in the areas that matter to our residents are the most that are unacceptable. The budget for green infrastructure is now only 48,000, and only 120,000 in the budget for other parks, open spaces, with no budget for sports and leisure budget, except for the £3 million for leisure centre refurbishment, which I assume that most of this budget is supported by funding from government grants. Our residents deserve continued improvements to park, open spaces and playgrounds, improving health and well-being, supporting sports, communities and the environment. But there is little in the budget to continue to support these important improvement schemes for the next year or the years after, as the majority of the capital programme budget for 2024-2025 has been allocated into supporting the extra care facility built next to the Civic Centre to the amount of £30,600,000, increasing to almost £20 million in 2025-26, which we know from the County Council meeting, budget meeting on Friday, could have been built without any expense to the borough. A further £25,637,000 in 2024-25 plus 2,139,000 in the Leyland Town Deal Fund for the Leyland Town Deal, but with a further expected amount of 7,981,000 in the capital programme for the year 2025-26. So despite the Conservative government's funding of 25 million for the Leyland Town Deal, there is very little left in the budget to improve any of the other areas in the borough. The total Conservative government funding received by this council since February 2022 until the end of March 2023 totals almost £50 million, with another amount of over £4 million expected at the moment for the year 2024-25, not including the £25 million for the Leyland Town Deal. The leader of the council has stated on a number of occasions that this council does not receive any funding from the government. The amendments proposed by the Conservative group tonight are designed to improve the health and well-being of all our residents and make South Ribble a safer, healthier and happier place to live, and we hope that they will be accepted tonight. We wish to focus on the very serious issue of speeding traffic in all areas of the borough by providing 2 speeding indicator devices in all wards and working with parish councils, community hubs, the Police and Crime Commissioner and the Road Safety Partnership to purchase more devices and install them where there is the greatest need. To improve the street scene and appearance of the whole borough with projects such as renewing old and unsightly bus shelters and providing new bus shelters if required and where they are needed. To replace or install new litter dog bins in areas where they have been requested by residents, especially in the new housing developments and the areas surrounding them. To provide new benches and enhanced seating areas with planters and enhance all village centres or retail areas to encourage residents to visit them and to shop local. To the refocusing of the Central Parks project, which began in 2014 as a 10-year project to celebrate the 50th years anniversary of South Ribble Borough Council. And I congratulate the leader on saying that there will be some projects coming forward in the future to celebrate this year. This year, in preparations for the council's Golden Jubilee, the whole project of the Central Parks needs to be revisited and improvements made to the walking and cycling routes and new projects for the park from the original plans started to provide more natural play areas, mountain bike trails, recreation amenities and focusing on the ecology and biodiversity of the whole area. The park runs through the whole central area of the borough, providing the residents of Lostercole, Bamber Bridge, Waltneydale and Penwitham with a beautiful natural place to walk, run, exercise and cycle in a safe, traffic-free environment. The park also provides a valuable natural break and green lungs separating the increasingly built-up environment of the whole area surrounding the park. The issue of the sorry state of some of the borough's football pitches has been highlighted by some of our residents. Many of the pitches are unplayable in the winter months due to their waterlogged condition. The provision of well-maintained facilities, especially for our younger residents to play football or rugby or whatever sports all year round, is vitally important to their health and well-being. And pitches in all areas need to be maintained and drained into an acceptable condition for them to be available for use as much as possible. We wish to support our residents and businesses in Leyland Town Centre during the improvement works from the Leyland Town Deal, which will have a negative impact on Leyland Town Centre for many months. The suspension of car parking charges in the Leyland car parks would help residents and businesses during the disruption caused by the work taking place. The Hope Terrace car park, Lostercole, is the only other car park in the borough to have a pay and display machine installed, but the introduction of new car parking charges and regulations have caused a number of issues for residents and businesses in the Tardygate Centre. By suspending the charges and regulations, residents would be encouraged to revisit the area and support the businesses, some of which are already closing due to the loss of business in the area, and it should be the council's duty to support all our local businesses wherever possible. The previous Conservative administration left this authority in a very financially robust situation and totally debt-free to enable the financing of many worthwhile projects. What gives us the greatest concern is the growing level of debt, which this Labour administration is planning to lead the borough into for the foreseeable future.
The administration spending spree and long-term projection of external debt, as indicated on the liability benchmarks, amounts to over £30 million of debt, and not being debt-free until the year 2064. And with the predicted capital programme spending of over £81 million by 2026-27, will leave many of our residents paying for the capital programme debt without any projects to improve the lives in the areas of the borough where they live. We read the sentences with the words requirement to be affordable and prudent and value for money to be demonstrated, yet this Labour administration has pushed ahead with very expensive projects. The council may find themselves with a significant gap between the capital funding requirements and current borrowing levels in the future. We cannot support the amount of spending of over £81 million that this administration has planned for the future of South Ribble. This includes the estimated cost at the moment of £20 million for the delivery of the Jubilee Gardens Extra Care Scheme, when other councils in the region have supported and delivered similar projects without the need to provide the funding to build such a project, and we would have delivered the scheme in a similar way so as not to burden this council with millions of pounds in debt.
I know I did say I would give latitude, but 15 minutes.
Yeah, that's right. There are many areas we do support within this budget, but we also acknowledge there are many assumptions and uncertainties going forward in the future. Therefore, I present the amendments to the 2024-25 budget this evening in an attempt to enhance the budget and hope that they will be accepted tonight.
Okay, thank you. Is this seconded? It is seconded. Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. So I've had requests already to speak on the amendment from Councillor Caleb Tomlinson.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Congratulations, Councillor Walton. You sounded like you meant every word of that. I mean, an amendment that is factually incorrect. I'm sorry, I can't support that. Not a chance. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Paul Foster.
Thanks, Mayor. I wasn't going to respond, but there's many inaccuracies within Councillor Walton's speech, but the continued criticism of Jubilee Gardens just shows a complete and utter lack of understanding in the Conservative group of what that facility is doing. Just so we're clear, Mr. Mayor, because Councillor Walton said we could have got it built for naught, because Councillor Gooch said that, County Councillor Gooch said that at County Hall the other day. They get it built for naught by us gifting the land to their developer mates, who then build a facility and then charge twice the going rent that this council will be charging our local community, and it's unaffordable. And the other big thing is, Councillor Walton, one thing you continually refuse to accept is that people pay rent to live in the apartments and the rent pays down the investment. You failed to mention as well that Homes England provided £8 million grant towards that £20 million. And if I'm bluntly honest, colleagues, the majority of the figures that have both just been spouted there in that speech have been either misrepresented deliberately or raised to cause confusion. I will therefore not be supporting this amendment. Thank you.
Councillor Michael Green.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Can I congratulate Councillor Walton on the budget amendment we've just heard. In the interest of brevity, Mr. Mayor, and your wish to get home at some point this evening, I won't talk about all the points which Councillor Walton has very ably covered. But I wish to just comment on a couple of her proposals whilst supporting all the points which are contained within that budget amendment. Let's talk about car parking charges. Car parking charges is something which I've always had a strong view on. But there's no doubt that by reducing car parking charges and suspending them, as the proposal sets out, this would reduce the burden on residents of South Ribble, particularly those using the car parks in the Leyland area and in the Loster Cole / Farrington area. would importantly also make it easier for car park users to park. We've had this issue which has been brought up by many residents, particularly on the Oak Terrace car park in Farrington West, Worcester Call, where people are struggling to get the tickets for the free period of parking. It's an issue which has been frequently raised to this council, but no action has been taken on that so far. And what that is causing is people not using the local businesses, and that's causing local businesses to suffer and potentially close down, which none of us, I'm sure, all 50 councillors don't want to see successful, well-established businesses closing down because of an issue such as this. So it's incumbent on us to do something about it. And I think this is what this amendment gets to, supporting businesses in Worcester Call, in Farrington and in Leyland to flourish moving forward. And the other point I wish to talk about is the environmental improvements which are set out in this. So new and replacement litter and dog bins, something which is called for by many of our residents, particularly in areas where we've got new housing developments and we need these facilities. So I think that is a real positive from this amendment which is being put forward. New and replacement bus shelters. Bus shelters are in a dire state in many areas across South Ribble. And there are some locations where there aren't bus shelters and maybe should be. So that's something that can be looked at. And I recall doing a scrutiny review many years ago on bus shelters. And it was quite novel at the time because it was district councils working with the county council to establish who owned the bus shelters, who was responsible for them, who could improve them, etc. So it just brings back happy memories of that. But something that we can do to encourage the use of public transport and to make it easier for our residents and keeping them sheltered from the lots of rain that we're obviously getting more and more of. New benches and notice boards, clearly something important. Benches in terms of getting people out and about, reducing social isolation, allowing them to rest. For people who struggle to walk long distances, really important for all residents, particularly older residents, people who may have disabilities, some of which are visible, some of which, as we know, are not visible. And notice boards helping us to get information out to the public about services which the council and our partners provide. And just some general improvements to the village centres. Well, we'd all like to see those. Let's tidy up South Ribble. Let's make this borough a borough that we can be proud of. Let's encourage our residents and people from outside the borough to actually come in, enjoy their leisure, promote their health and well-being, and shop in the local businesses and help them to flourish too. There's lots of positives in this amendment. I commend Councillor Walton and we'll be happy to support this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Green. Councillor Matthew Tomlinson.
Thank you, mate. You'll recall a few minutes ago I rose in mock shock at Councillor Mrs Smith asking me to go against the council's constitution. I rise now, I am genuinely shocked. I am genuinely shocked at this proposed amendment. I remind people that this is the group who sat on council balances for years and did nothing with them. Did not upgrade a playground for the last 8 years they were in charge. Sat on balances. Didn't do Mackenzie Arms. Didn't do all those things I referred to. Just sat on balances. Then when we came in and started investing that money in playgrounds and things like that, they cried, oh, they're spending the money. Spending the money. What are you spending money on? We're spending it on investing in the borough that we're proud of. That's what we're spending it on. And then just last year, they ran an election campaign based on fear. Fear that we were spending too much money. And what do their amendments tonight do? They spend more money. Nearly £800,000 they want to just take out of our budget reserve. £800,000 take out, spend it on pet projects in their own wards. We put that money to one side very specifically because of the economic uncertainty that we are in. That's what it's there for, to protect this council. It's not there for the whims of individual members who want a notice board in the village centre. It's not there to provide a bench for someone to sit down when they're walking the dog. It's there to protect this council. I said we would be robust and everything that we did would be based on sound economic planning. And that's what that reserve is there. And I would encourage everybody in this room to say, do not do not go anywhere near this amendment. This is the party that used to call themselves the party of business, and then Boris Johnson said F business when they didn't like Brexit. This is the party who used to say they were the party of low taxation, and we're now suffering higher taxes from them for more than 70 years. And this is the party who used to say they were the party of sound financial planning. And look what they bring us tonight. A wish list that can only be paid for out of the reserve we put to one side to protect this council. Even in her speech, the council leader worried about the financial future of this council and whether we were spending too much money. She worried in her speech and then proposed we spend £800,000 on a wish list of little projects that might make her members feel a bit better. What a nonsense. What an utter nonsense. On the town deal, she doesn't like us putting our money in. But her government said, yes, we'll give you £25 million, but only if you put some money in yourself. That was a condition. That's not just us saying we want it to be bigger and shinier than we can get for 25 million. That's what the government insisted. On car parking, when I first got on the council, all the council's car parks were free. They were free. And they were clogged from 10 to 9 in the morning till 5 o'clock at night because people living in our town centres drove into the town centre, parked the car and left it up there all day. And it was businesses who came to us and said, you must manage these car parks better. You must manage these better. And so the charging policy that we have is based on rationing the time to a sensible amount so that people come and go. I will remind members that the new regime we've introduced makes every single parking space on our charge 4 car parks free for an hour. Before, I think it was 8 on Sumner Street that were marked in blue bays, and if you couldn't find one, you had to pay even if you were only going to stay 10 minutes. The current system, with its teething difficulties, is better than it was before. What confusion, the absolute confusion from this amendment. It's an absolute nonsense. And I heard Councillor Green say, let's make South Ribble somewhere we're proud to live. But let me tell you, Councillor Green, I'm proud to live in South Ribble already. I'm proud to live in South Ribble. It's one of the finest places in the northwest of England you could possibly live. And part of that is because of the work we've been doing in previous years. And I would say again, because he criticised me in County Hall, I don't normally bring County Hall up, but Councillor Green wants to make car parking free on our car parks when last Friday he voted to introduce on-street car parking with meters to streets and streets across Lancashire. Absolute confusion. Ignore them, folks. Let's vote this down.
Thank you, Councillor Tomlinson. Councillor Damien Bretherton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to thank Councillor Tomlinson for agreeing to certain items on the First Amendment, which was put forward by the Liberals. And I hope that one of the projects he was referring to was the proposal to invest in SPIDs. In our ward, in Councillor Campbell and my ward, the Waltonsdale West, probably one of the biggest issues where we get complaints from is speeding. We're always there's campaign groups, people, especially about the new Crossborough Link Road. Councillor Campbell and myself have been out with like a sort of speed gun, not an official speed gun, but we've actually measured speeds on several occasions. And where the Procedural Link Road shows a 30 miles an hour speed limit, we're seeing speeds of up to 60 miles an hour on some cases, 40 miles an hour. But the actual average was just under 40 miles an hour. We've reported it to the appropriate Lancashire Police website and reported the findings. We keep trying our best, and we keep trying to let the residents know that it isn't something that the council has got enforcement over. It is actually a police matter. But I do believe that if each ward could have 2 SPID cameras located at the worst areas, I think that would be highly beneficial. And I hope that is one of the projects that Councillor Tomlinson was referring to when he suggested that he liked certain items of the amendment. It is included in our amendment, and I hope that members will support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bretherton. Councillor David Howarth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Unfortunately, I am, well, not rising to oppose it, but certainly it's not an amendment we can support. I mean, it's full of excellent sentiment and it's full of excellent aspiration. But as Councillor Tomlinson has said, it's also £800,000 being drawn down from reserves. And I really do wonder if, when I come here and then go to County Hall, I'm entering some sort of parallel universe, because last week, the Conservatives were pointing at Councillor Tomlinson saying, you can't draw down reserves, you can only spend them once. And now I've come here and Councillor Tomlinson's pointing to the Conservatives saying, you can't draw down reserves. You can only spend them once. Not quite sure how that all works out, but anyway. But in terms of the proposals, there are some contradictions in here as well. I mean, you've got excellent aspirations to improve cycling links and disabled access and presumably active travel, but then in your 4th amendment, you want to get everybody into a car to drive around the borough into different areas, polluting the atmosphere or adding to the pollution of the atmosphere, which isn't doing a great deal for climate change. And in case you hadn't noticed, we've just had the wettest February on record. So our efforts to tackle climate change aren't going to be helped by encouraging people to get in cars instead of encouraging people to get out of them. Look, you're the best one. I'm not coming out.
We are not going into round 2 yet. Continue, Councillor Howard.
Rather throw me off track now. In terms of the SPIDs, I really do wonder just how much research you've done into this, because we have a stock of SPIDs already. This isn't something completely new where we're going to buy them in and then everybody gets a couple. I put a proposal together for the community hub for SPIDs, as I mentioned in our amendments, but I know exactly where every SPID is in Penwitham, and you want to give 2 to every ward. Middlefirth ward in Penwitham already has 4, Broadoak has 1, Charnock doesn't have any, and neither does Harwich Priory. So the Middlefirth get another 2 on top of the 4 they've got. I really don't think you've thought this one through. And even then, you have to do feasibility tests on the lampposts. The lampposts have to be of a certain structure. You can't put them on concrete lampposts, for example. And you have to get agreement of county. So brilliant. Spend all that money buying all these SPIDs and giving 2 to every ward. But if you can't put them up, it really is a bit of a waste of money. So unfortunately, I regret we can't support your amendment. And on this one, we will be abstaining, because while we recognise some of the excellent sentiments in there, I just don't think it's properly thought through, and I don't think it's affordable.
Thank you, Councillor Howard. I have no one else request. Naughty. Councillor Margaret Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I rise just to speak briefly about the amendment regarding the football pitches. There's been quite a bit said about it this evening in various parts of the borough. And it isn't a pet project, as has been alluded to. Some of our football pitches literally are unplayable, regardless of the fact we've had 3 months of very heavy weather this year. That doesn't say that it doesn't happen all the time in the western parishes. All right, I agree that land in some of the areas is marshy and boggy, but nevertheless, they are designated as playing fields for young people to play their football matches on. Went to visit one a couple of weeks ago, and they actually said, we play all our matches as much as possible in the summer part of the season, because after that we play all of them away. because the pitch is actually totally unplayable. There's a pond on one of them in the Western Parishes, an absolute pond. The ducks are there. You know, these are good facilities that we have. Some of our football clubs are crying out for football pitches, and yet we can't accommodate them because there's drainage problems. And this is actually where we're coming from. It's not a vanity project. It is actual practicalities that we, as a borough council, have excellent facilities in football pitches, but you can't use them. So what's the point of having them? That's the whole point. And if Councillor Tomlinson is going to be accommodating to the Liberals to talk about things like that, some of their projects, perhaps he would accommodate us and talk about football pitches with us. Thank you.
Okay, there are no more requests, and I'm not taking any more requests because no one's put up now. So we are going to move to the vote on this amendment. Oh, it's a named vote. This is very good. I'm very happy with this.
So this is on the amendment moved by the Conservative group. Councillor Adams.
Against.
Councillor Alty. Councillor Ashton.
Against.
Councillor Bedford. Councillor Bell. Councillor Bretherton. Councillor Buttery. Councillor Belinsky-Gelder.
Against.
Councillor Campbell. For. Councillor Coulton. Councillor Farnworth.
Against.
Councillor Forshaw.
Against.
Councillor Foster.
Against.
Councillor Gabbett.
Against.
Councillor Gleave. Councillor Mary Green. Councillor Michael Green. Councillor Hancock. Councillor Hindle-Taylor. Councillor Howarth. Councillor Hunter.
Against.
Councillor Jackson. Councillor Lillis.
Same.
Councillor Lomax.
Against.
Councillor Martin. It's the same person again, if you click at the back.
Against.
Councillor Mullineux. Councillor Pillinger. Councillor Pritchard.
Against.
Councillor Rea. Councillor Roberts.
Against.
Councillor Sharples.
Against.
Councillor Shaw.
Abstain.
Councillor Margaret Smith. Councillor Phil Smith.
For.
Councillor Stevens. Councillor Stringfellow. Councillor Caleb Tomlinson.
Still not changed my mind. Against.
Councillor Matthew Tomlinson.
Against.
Councillor Turner.
Abstain.
Councillor Unsworth.
Against.
Councillor Walton. Councillor Watkinson.
Against.
Councillor Watson.
For.
Councillor Wharton Hardman.
Against.
Councillor Williams.
Against.
The amendment is lost. Now, we move on to the revenue budget, the substantial proposal that came originally. What I'm going to say to council is please do not rehash the points you have made during the amendments. We've heard what you have to say. If you've got something fresh to say, that would be really appreciated. with it, but we have had long debates on both amendments, and it's you that I want us to move on to. So, people wishing to speak for or against the revenue budget. Okay, I've got Councillor Leslie Pritchard.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm really pleased that this council has invested in a social prescribing service which provides help to people at perhaps the time that they need it most. This investment in individual and community health promotion will be of huge benefit to families in South Ribble. It will benefit their well-being and lead on to more healthier outcomes. I'd like to thank the Cabinet tonight for having the vision to instil this service within South Ribble. I'd like to thank Councillor Hunter and the Social Prescribing Service for helping to develop and deliver it within our communities. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Elaine Stringfellow.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's 10 months now since myself and my Lostock Hall colleagues were elected to the council, and I've seen such a lot of incredible changes for the good in South Ribble during this past year. The concept of healthy and happy communities is an important priority for this council. The recently opened South Ribble Family Wellbeing Centre, which the council converted from the old Greens Dance Centre, will ensure that young families in the area have the opportunity to access a wide range of support from specialist partners. There will be classes preparing expectant parents for the birth of their baby, postnatal support, as well as playgroups and education sessions, all taking place in a specially designed family centre in the heart of Lostock Hall. Although initially it will be aimed at young families, it will be interesting to see how this develops over the coming months and years, hopefully giving support to children of all ages. Let's ensure that the council can continue to build on this investment by approving this budget and allowing the good work to continue. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Deborah Ashton.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to draw Council's attention to an item on pages 99 and 100 of the report, which is about the Climate Emergency Reserve. And I think it's really easy for that to have been overlooked in the budget process. When it was my portfolio, I gave Councillor Tomlinson a lot of earache that if we could do anything in what's been an extremely difficult financial settlement and creating the budget, that we should, because we've done some fantastic work as a council over the years. The reserve has been topped up, and I'm sure that the climate team will do the sterling work they've done before and make that money go an awfully long way. We've got millions of pounds of match funding from a relatively small investment for the first reserve. So thank you very much to Councillor Tomlinson and the rest of the Cabinet for reinstating the reserve. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Matthew Forshaw.
First, I'd like to thank the officers and the Cabinet for producing a positive, balanced budget. The administration has delivered many positive developments, including play areas and providing a grant of £300,000 to get the Gregson Green Community Centre over the line. It is because of all this and the promise of more to benefit residents I'll be voting for the budget.
Thank you. Councillor Kath Unsworth.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just commenting on the pay, the fact that we're paying the apprentices a proper wage, and that the gap between female are outstripping the men when it comes to the gender pay gap. So I'm just sort of reflecting on that. It's all on page 171 if people want to look at it. Thank you.
Councillor Hayden Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Talk about my job is about planning, so this is about plan really. I welcome the budget and the medium-term financial plan. With the comprehensive work and diligence of our officers should rightly be praised. The governance and running of this council has been transformed over the last 4 years. I was elected in May 23 on a platform where the leadership of this council had broken the mould when it came to investing in the people and the fabric of this borough. Numerous play parks upgraded, new council houses, word and park improvements and numerous other projects, and having a clearly defined plan and how we achieve this, I've immeasurably improved this borough and I'm proud to be a part of this administration. Moving on to this budget, we have proven that this administration is 100% committed to improving the lives of people in South Ribble, rather than the previous administration who could have, would have or should have, and at one point considered the purchase of industrial units in the south of the country instead of investing in this borough. We believe our residents, we believe in our residents and we are improving the borough, not just for the short term, but for the generations to come with the building of Jubilee Gardens, with the improvements in infrastructure in my ward in Leyland Central as part of the town deal, and the council's investment will improve the town for decades to come. As our plan will see improvements over the NTFS period, we'll see visible improvements across South Ribble, not just in Leyland. Doing all this while maintaining a prudent inflationary and budget equalisation reserve that ensures that if some more calamities and market crashes are triggered by these reckless actions from our dying and incompetent government, who are adequately protected financially, and more importantly, the residents are protected and will do what we have promised. And we have shown over the last 5 years that we will deliver. We're an administration that pushes forward. We have ambition to improve residents' lives and have a vision and a plan as to how this will be achieved. And I commend this budget to council.
Councillor Jackie Alty.
Thank you. It's an observation as well as a commendation for my fellow cabinet members. I worked in the NHS as a midwife, nurse, health visitor, and as a specialist practitioner in CAMS. And I watched as this government was elected many years ago now, and it feels like decades. And I watched the services that I worked in become decimated, fragment by fragment. I watched how our primary care service in CAMS was closed down like that. All the wealth of information, education packages, promotion, dismissed as invaluable, not worth keeping, because it didn't fit in with the wider structure and the ethos of prevention is better than cure. And you can tell me all the ethical, moral, you can tell me all the financial reasons why things are driven by philosophy and rationale. What you can't do is take away the memories I have of people coming through doors after months of waiting, seeking assistance, for that assistance no longer to be present. And recently I have been experiencing difficulties because of family needs myself. And I have watched when a child of mine who has a serious condition cannot receive the services that he needs because the NHS no longer commissions those services, despite the fact that consultants are willing and wanting him to access them because there is an evidence base for them. And we can sit here and argue philosophy all day. It matters not a jot when you are the person in need. And I would like to say the Wellbeing Centre is a fantastic place. Providing occupational therapy in the locality is a wonderful initiative. Providing anything that moves us forward as a locally based provider of care that is now sadly lacking at a national level and whose systematic reorganisation have made it ineffectual in so many areas. It's an absolute blessing to be part of this hands-on, local-based, locally funded service for our residents. We all sit here and claim it matters. I'll tell you what matters when it's personal to you. I'll tell you what matters when it's not. Nothing. You don't care. You might have a philosophical bent, but actually it doesn't matter. You might have a dream, but it doesn't matter. It matters when those that you love and care for cannot access the services that they need because from a national level, they are no longer deemed available. And with that, thank you very much for everything that you've done. I commend this budget and more besides in the years to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Matthew Tomlinson, I have no further speakers. Would you like to sum up?
Thank you, and I will be very brief. I know that time marches on. I just want to say a huge thank you to all my colleagues and friends who spoke up in favour of this budget. It's never an easy thing to build, but we build it around our values, our beliefs, and the priorities that we've already expressed for this council. That's what builds this budget, and that's what will continue to build future budgets. Thank you to everybody who's spoken, especially if it was your first time speaking in council, because I know a couple of people, it was the first time. I promise you it gets easier. But I'm really touched by some of the comments, and I now look forward to council voting this budget through and we can get on doing what we do best. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
We now move to a named vote. Yet again, please remember to push your buttons to speak.
So this is on the substantive motion and recommendations. Councillor Adams.
4.
Councillor Alty. Councillor Ashton.
4.
Councillor Bedford.
4.
Councillor Bell. Councillor Bretherton. Councillor Buttery.
Same.
Councillor Belinsky-Gelder.
4.
Councillor Campbell.
Abstain.
Councillor Coulton. Councillor Farnworth.
4.
Councillor Forshaw. Councillor Foster.
With pleasure. 4.
Councillor Gabbett.
4.
Councillor Gleave. Councillor Mary Green.
Abstain.
Councillor Michael Green. Councillor Hancock. Councillor Hindle Taylor. Councillor Howarth. Councillor Hunter.
4.
Councillor Jackson. Councillor Lillis. Councillor Lomax.
4.
Councillor Martin.
4.
Councillor Mullineux. Councillor Pillinger.
4.
Councillor Pritchard.
4.
Councillor Rea. Councillor Roberts.
4.
Councillor Sharples.
4.
Councillor Shaw. 4. Councillor Margaret Smith.
Abstain.
Councillor Phil Smith.
Abstain.
Councillor Stevens.
4.
Councillor Stringfellow. Councillor Caleb Tomlinson.
With pride and joy, 4.
Councillor Matthew Tomlinson.
Just 4, thank you.
Councillor Turner.
4.
Councillor Unsworth.
4.
Councillor Walton.
Abstain.
Councillor Watkinson. Councillor Watson.
Abstain.
Councillor Wharton Hardman.
4.
Councillor Williams.
4.
Definitely carried.
Yeah, that is clearly carried. That brings us to the end of this evening, and I'd like to thank everyone for coming tonight. The next meeting of the full council will be on Wednesday, the 27th of March, 24, 6 p.m. I look forward to seeing you all again, and it'd be lovely to see you at my murder mystery. But thank you. Good evening.